So, happy 2017. Now, I just wanted to talk to you a moment about New Year's resolutions. It's that time of year again, it's January 2nd, and so New Year's resolutions are something that I've always set ever since being a small child. As a small child, I used to write in exercise books. It was sort of encouraged in schools. What are you going to set for New Year's resolutions? And I used to write down what I would set for my New Year's resolutions for that year, and I might put 2 or 3 different things down, and I would do my best to achieve them. And back then I knew nothing about setting New Year's resolutions beyond just put something down that you really want to achieve this year, and so that's what I would do. Nowadays I've got a lot more training, I've had a lot of experience, so I know a lot more about how to set New Year's resolutions and how to achieve them. A few years ago, I changed how I set New Year's resolutions. So I used to set things like, I would say, okay, here's 4 different book ideas, for example. I want to write a book about each of these 4 ideas, and I want to make a course about each of these 3 or 4 different topics. And I would set things like that, and then I would cross them off as I did them. So say I wanted to write a book about hypnotic inductions. I would have that on my list, and then so I've got the New Year's resolutions all listed, and then after the new year I would go through them and think, okay, let's crack on, let's get something done. And say hypnotic induction book, I would take that as New Year's resolution, put it down on a page and think, okay, what do I have to do to achieve that? And then I would list all the different things I have to do to achieve it. So I would list them in as chronological order as I could, although I used to do it handwritten, and I still do things handwritten so that I can scribble things out and do arrows and move things around. So what I would do is say, okay, so I want to write this book. I need to know what it's going to be about. So I know it's about hypnotic inductions, but what kind of hypnotic induction book do I want to write? So I would then list, what would the chapters be of that book? So I'd write down all the chapter headings. Then I'd think, so what would I have within each of those chapters? So if I've got a chapter on what is hypnosis, well, what do I want people to know about what hypnosis is? And then I would do essentially subheadings. And so I would do that for a whole book, just for this one point. I do that for the whole book, and then essentially what I've got is a title, roughly. I might change the title as I go through the months or 2 months or 3 months or whatever of writing the book. I might change the title as different ideas come to me, but I'd have a working title. I'd then have all of the chapter headings, and I would have essentially what I want as lots of the paragraphs or subheadings within the chapters. So I'd instantly, before doing anything, just that tiny little bit makes me feel like, oh, that book's virtually done now. And so it felt like I'd got a long way with it already. So I would then think, okay, so how long is it going to take me to write it? How much time do I have to give up? How much time do I have? When can I write it? So I'd plan all of this, and then essentially all I'm doing is smart goal setting. And as I got older, I set more and more and more targets for myself, more and more New Year's resolutions. Partly because I liked the idea of setting more than I could achieve in a year, so that I would then prioritise things and think, oh yeah, I fancy working on that one now, I fancy working on this one now. And I wouldn't achieve everything by the end of the year, but what I knew was that I wouldn't run out. I wouldn't get halfway through a year and think, well, I've done everything I set out to do this year. Whereas what I would do is get halfway through the year and think, okay, what am I going to do next? I've got all these things left. I've only got half a year left. What do I want to spend my time achieving out of what I've got left? So I used to always set more, and some things can carry on to a future year, it doesn't matter. But that was just my way of motivating myself. And then a couple of years ago, as I say, I changed what I did. So that's how I used to do it. Very specific tasks, set the tasks, go and achieve the tasks. Then a couple of years ago, about 2012-ish, I decided, let's do something different this year. So what I set was, right, I want to achieve something new every single month. So at least one new thing every month. So it could be that one month I've learnt to play something on the piano. It could be that one month I've made an educational course on, say, rapid inductions. Or it could be that one month I've decided to go and study a specific topic, whatever that happens to be. So I set myself that. I thought, I love this idea of, instead of having New Year's resolutions that are very regimented, because I like structure, I like things being organised, but I thought it would be a bit different because you never know what's going to happen through the year. So you know what your life is probably going to be like in the next 3 months or so, but the further away from this point you get, the less you know about how your life is going to be then. So things that had happened to me at the time, when I was doing this, just out the blue, is, for example, I moved into a house that myself and my wife really loved. It was a rented property. Unknown to us, on the day that we got the keys to move into the property, the landlady, who lived in Canada, died. That news didn't get to the letting agents until months later, so perhaps 3-4 months later. And then that news didn't get to us because they then were negotiating with family. What do you want to do? What's going to happen with this property? Are you going to want to have these tenants stay? Are you going to want to keep it as a rental property? Who's inheriting the property? What's going to happen? So they wanted to get some clarity, obviously, before we found out. But 3 or 4 months into our tenancy, it was a 6-month tenancy. We expected to be renewed after 6 months. It was getting close, so they had to tell us something before our tenancy ran out. What they told us was that the son of the person who'd passed away was going to have to sell the property because of inheritance tax. And they'd love to be able to keep us in there, love to be able to keep the property as a rental property, but they're going to have to sell it for inheritance tax. So my wife and I had to move, and we never could have foreseen that. So if something, for example, on my New Year's resolution list was, let's move into a nice house, and then we did that and achieved that, the fact is, 6 months later, we were back out of a nice house, having to find somewhere else to live. And although we live in a very nice flat now, it's not the same as a nice rustic 1800s house that we lived in. It was a really nice cottagey house that we lived in. The way to make it not really matter is to say, okay, I just want to do something new every month. I want to just, some things might take many months, and that's fine. So for example, one of my new in 2012, when I did this for the first time, I think I achieved something like 64 or 67 different things across the year. So every time I did something new that I thought, this is going to be something new as part of my New Year's resolution, it's getting near the end of the month, I haven't done something, or whatever it happens to be, I used to write it down and jot down what I've done. And so I looked back and saw how much I'd achieved across that year by doing it this way. Whereas beforehand, I used to set maybe a dozen different things to do across the year, which is why I'd thought, oh, let's just do one new thing a month, because that's about the rate that I was intentionally doing it beforehand. And what I found was that I actually did a lot more, because there were times when I would just want to do small things. So I'd have some things where, like, say, I might decide, okay, my New Year's resolution for this year is I'm going to run, which it was in 2014, is this year I'm going to run a private hypnosis diploma course. So in my flat I have hundreds and hundreds of hypnotherapy books and books about psychotherapy and all different things like that, and the mind and things. And I thought, when I run hypnotherapy training courses, I go to a venue and I run it in a venue. And yet all of my books are at home. And so on breaks, people can interact with me, although I'm not particularly a fan of being interacted with too much. But they don't have, like, they can't just go to a room and flick open a book and read through a book they've never seen before and pick up other books and then think, oh, I'm going to get that book for my collection. Or they don't have that luxury. So I thought I'd have to charge more because I'll only be working with, say, 4 students. but let's do a live, a hypnotherapy training course, diploma course, in my own home. And so in 2014, that's something I did. And obviously that was something that spanned over a number of months. It wasn't something that I did in just 1 month. Alongside that, I decided to write, I think, a meditation book or something. And so that was something else that spanned a number of months to write it. And what I would do is, at the point of achieving it, I would then say, so that's something I've achieved this year or this month on my list of what I've achieved every month. So when I finally completed the diploma course, I said, right, this month, October or whatever it was that year, I've done a diploma this year with a personal small group where it's just 1 to 4, myself and 4 students, and they've got plenty of my time, so they can go off on tangents, they can learn what they want that's above and beyond what's on the curriculum, and we can delve into things a bit more because there's more time, because there's only 4 of them. I'm not having to wait for, say, 30 people to be asking questions or to be pairing up and going and doing exercises. It's just 4 people, and there's plenty of time for them. They've got plenty of my attention. So I did that, and that was brilliant. I might do something similar in the future. But that was the change I made, was that I went from, here are setting goals, setting New Year's resolutions, and setting them all at the beginning and then just doing them all. Then it was, well, actually, the New Year's resolution can be, I want to achieve something new every month. And what would happen is, on the 30th of the month, or the 31st of the month, or the 28th or 29th, depending on the month, I would suddenly think, I haven't actually done anything this month. And so I would go and learn something. I would go onto YouTube, I would find a topic I'm really interested in, learning something about, search for some videos on it, or I'd go to Udemy and I would take a course on Udemy about a topic, and I would just blitz it. In that day, I would just learn everything I can about that, and then be able to tick off and say, this month I've learnt about the golden ratio, or this month I've learnt about whatever it happens to be. And then I'd be feeling proud of myself that I've actually achieved something that month and progressed myself. So I think that's a bit of a different way of thinking about doing New Year's resolutions, but I think it's a really useful thing to do, because you don't know in advance what you're going to achieve through the year. All you know is, I'm going to achieve so much this year. I'm going to learn so much this year. And that's all you know. And then at the end of the year, you look back and realise how much you've done. So as long as you're logging it all, you look back and realise how much you've done. And some things will be very structured, as I've mentioned about, like writing a book. There, you think it through. You think, okay, so a goal has to be something you can achieve, something where everything that is involved in achieving that thing is in your power. If it's not in your power, don't put it as a goal, scrap it. That can be a wish, it's not a goal. So for it to be a goal, it has to be something that's entirely under your control to achieve. So I can have a goal that I will write a specific book by the end of the year. I can't have a goal that I'm going to have a bestseller by the end of the year, because that's out of my hands. I can write the book, I can put hours into writing the book, I can put hours into marketing the book, I can put hours into doing lots of PR and all sorts of things. But none of that guarantees success of that book. So things that I could have as a goal is, I want to, just say for this year, I could say, right, I want to write a book in the next 3 months. So by March. And then by the end of March, I want to have this PR strategy in place where all these different people are going to be approached, and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And then, say 3 months after that, I might say I want to then be running lectures off the back of the fact that I'm this author that's written this book. And so I'm going to run the lectures where I will book the venues and I'll run it myself. So I can do all of that, but none of that guarantees success. So as long as I don't focus on wanting the success out of it, and I just focus on, this is what I want to achieve. I want to write this book. I want to get some promotion out there. Whether it's successful or not, I want to get that promotion out there. And I want to then be running talks off the back of this book and because you can't say, I want people to want me to come and talk for them. You can't guarantee that. So it would have to be, I will pay to set up these talks all over the place, and then I'll go and give these talks. Even if no one's in the room, I will go and give these talks. So as long as you're happy to accept that, that's the bit you can do. You can't do the bits that are out of your control, and you can't have them as part of your goal. Like, you can't say, I want to be a millionaire by next year, unless you can say, I know 100% that every step of becoming a millionaire, I know exactly what I need to do, how to do it, and I know I can do it, and I know it's going to actually genuinely lead to being a millionaire. And if I knew something like that, I'd be doing it. So to my knowledge, there is no guaranteed way of being able to just say, I'll be a millionaire next year, and this is what I'm going to do to become that millionaire. All you can do is say, this is what I'm going to do. It'd be brilliant if it makes me a millionaire. And then you just go and do it. So say, if somebody said, I'm going to set up and create an e-course, and I'm going to put that e-course on this website, and I'm going to have this brilliant sales funnel that I'm going to write, and I'm going to write this brilliant copy for that sales funnel. And at the end of that sales funnel, people are going to receive this free report, free 50-page report on whatever it's to do with. And they're going to end up on my mailing list. And then while they're on my mailing list with this free report, I'm going to send them 2 more free reports. And then I'm going to say, oh, if you want to know more, I've got this short course for you. And then I'm going to shunt them into the short course. And you could set all that up. But it could be that no one comes to your website, no one sees your sales funnel, and you don't get any sales. So it depends where you're focusing. So if you focus on, well, if that happens, it happens. But I'm happy to give my time to creating it because I want to create it. So there's lots of things like that I've done where I've thought, I'm happy to give my time to create all this because I want to create it and I want it out there for people to watch it or learn from it or whatever it happens to be. Whether it's paid things or free things, it doesn't matter. My focus is I want this to be available for people. And obviously if it's paid, I'm not making it paid thinking because I've made it paid it's going to make me a millionaire. I'm thinking I'm making it paid, and even if it only gets 1 sale a month, give enough time, it'll cover the cost I put in for my hours that I worked on it. So for example, if I wrote a book, there's no guarantee that book's going to lead to £1 million worth of sales. But if I've spent 3 months writing the book, I might think, okay, I need to make £6,000 back to cover the cost of my time for those 3 months of writing the book and to cover, say, the cost of the proofreading, copy editing, cover design, all these different bits and pieces. And so my way of looking at it is, even if it makes £10 every single month, just getting, say, 3 or 4 sales a month, I will aim high. I'll try and do everything in my power to make it successful. But even if it only gets 3 or 4 sales a month, with time, I'll make back that £6,000. That £6,000 that my time and my investment was at the beginning. So that's my way of looking at these things. And I think when you set New Year's resolutions, that's what you need to do. So if you want to quit smoking, that's in your control. If you want to lose weight, that's in your control. If you want your kids to behave, that isn't in your control. The part of that that's in your control is how do you want to be towards your kids? What parenting do you want to do? How they react back to that will be up to them. That's what they're in control of. So there are some things that clearly you're in control of, and there are things that are common for New Year's resolutions. It's common in January that lots of people will be doing dry January. They'll spend January not drinking, having just binged on New Year's Eve. And some of those people will be thinking, if only I could do this for life and not just January. And they may or may not believe they can do it, and so they may or may not do it. But by setting something like that, you're able to say, okay, well, rather than dry January, why don't I do dry forever? As my friend Julian Kirkman-Page, the author of I Don't Drink, would say. He was an alcoholic, he quit drinking, and has written a brilliant couple of books now about his experiences and helping other people to quit drinking forever. And his thing is, as long as you do dry January, what your focus is on that first drink you can have at the end of January. Whereas if you do dry forever, you stop focusing on the drink and instead you focus on what you're going to do with your life. Now you don't drink. And so setting New Year's resolutions around things like drinking and say quitting forever is a very good thing to do, because you can control every aspect of that. You can't control what causes you stress, and say stress is something, when something causes you stress, you drink. You can't control what causes you stress, but you can control how you're going to handle that stress. You can learn new ways of handling stress. If you quit smoking, again, you can't control the external things, the things that cause you the stress that makes you smoke. And so it's important, whatever New Year's resolution you set, and obviously I'd love to hear below in the comments what kind of New Year's resolutions you're going to set, or if you even do New Year's resolutions. I love doing New Year's resolutions because it gives me something to look forward to. You start a new year and you think, I want to do this year. It's 2017. What am I going to do? What would I like to achieve this year? How do I like to spend my time? So rather than dwelling at New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions are a very positive thing. So rather than dwelling on the past, 2016 was rubbish. The number of celebrities that died who are actually people you quite like, not just obscure celebrities with the odd good celebrity peppered in there. They're largely the celebrities you like and you know really well. And so you could either focus on, what a bad year 2016 was. How bad was this? How bad was that in the UK? How bad was the train service? How bad have all the strikes been? How bad have some of the decisions been that the country and the world have made over 2016? So you can either focus on all that, or you can think, what do I want for 2017? What do I want to achieve? But in a year's time, where would I like to be? What would I like to, it could be, I'd love to know French. I'd love to be able to speak French by the end of the year. Well, when you get to the end of the year and you think, wow, this year I learned to speak French. Yeah, it's a very positive thing. It gives you something to look forward to now, something you think, I can't wait until next month when I will have achieved this. I can't wait until that month when I'm going to go and do that. I can't wait until this month when I'm going to do this. So New Year's resolutions are something that I think are really good to set, and they're really positive, future-focused things. So I'd love to know below what New Year's resolutions you're planning on setting, and whether you do New Year's resolutions, and if not, why not? Is there a reason why you don't? And do you usually not do New Year's resolutions, but you now think, maybe I'll give it a go and I'll set something for myself? And obviously, if you find this helpful and video helpful or interesting, give it a thumbs up. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. You can subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be kept informed. I make 3 videos every week, so then you'll be kept informed of my latest videos.